on the panoramic survey data presented by Melissa Van Zanten, Director of Curriculum and Assessment.
Hi. First of all, I'd like to correct that slide. It should be fall 2023 and fall 2024. So sorry I didn't catch that sooner. And the next slide. So what I'm going to share with you is to tell you, first of all, we give this survey in the fall and the spring, and we've done this for at least the last 3 years. I think we might have even done that before. And last time I was here, we talked about the fall data, and we're actually talking about spring. So that slide, you really shouldn't cut and paste, or if you do, you should correct it. So I'll have to do that better next time. We're going to talk about students from grades 3 through 5 who took the survey, students 6 through 12, staff, teachers, and family results. So on this slide, it shows the percentage of the participants. So on the left-hand side, we have in the spring of 2023, and then in the middle, we have the spring of 2024, and then the difference. The percentages that are in the red, that is the percentage that is less, that we've gone down in 2024 compared to 2023. So for example, in grades 3 through 5 in 2023, we had 81% of our students in grades 3 through 5 participate in the survey, and in 2024, 74% did. 6 through 12, we had 54%, and then we had 48%, which is a decrease of 6%. For our staff in 2023, we had 33%, and we had an increase of 1% to 34%. For teachers, in the year 2023, we had 60%, and in the spring of 2024, 52%, which is a decrease of 8%. In our families, we had 0.5% of our families participate in the spring of 2023, and 1% participated in 24, and that is an increase of 0.5%. And for this slide, I'm explaining, we're going to talk about the students for grades 3 through 5. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about what each of these areas are about. So the school climate, it's the perception of the overall social and learning climate. So it's what students are thinking about the social and learning climate in their school. And for school safety, it's the students' perception of their physical and their psychological safety. For a sense of belonging is how much students feel that they are valued members of their school community. And for teacher-student relationships is how strong the social connection is between teachers and students within and beyond the classroom. I also wanted to put in some sample questions so that you know a little bit about what the students see. So if a student is in 3rd through 5th grade, they're asked the same questions, and these are 3 sample questions. So one of them is, how often are people disrespectful to others at your school? Another question is, how much support do adults at your school give you? And a third question is, during the past 30 days, how often did you follow directions in class? I love the giggles. I had to giggle at that one myself. And the next slide. The students in grades 3 through 5 answered this in 2023 and 2024, exactly the same percentage rate, 51%. And I added a column for the national average so that you would know what the national average was compared to our district. So the national average was 68% for this question. School safety, we stayed exactly the same for those 2 springs as well. And the national average is 59%. For a sense of belonging, in 23, it was 57%. In 24, it was 56%. And the national average is 67%. The teacher-student relationships in 2023 was 67%. 2024 was 69%, and the national average is 78%. On the next slide, these are 3 sample questions for students in grades 6 through 12. When your teacher asks you how you are doing, how many of them are really interested in your answer? Number 2, how much do you matter to others? Number 3, how confident are you that you can complete all the work that is assigned in your classes? So the answers to these questions, or the percentages, I should say, in 2023 is 32%, and in 2024 was 31%. The national average is 70%. School safety, 48%, and then 49% in 24. The national average is 57%. A sense of belonging in 2023 was 26%, 28% this spring, and the national average is 55%. Teacher-student relationships in 2023, 44%, 2024, 45%, and the national average is 65%. This section is for staff and teachers. So for staff and teachers, we ask about belonging. And this one has to do with how much staff and teachers feel that they are valued members of the school community. Cultural awareness and action is how well a school supports staff and teachers in learning about, discussing, and confronting issues of race, ethnicity, and culture. Professional learning, perceptions of the amount and quality of professional growth and learning opportunities available to staff and teachers. And I have 3 sample questions that were asked of staff and teachers. Number 1 is, how connected do you feel to other adults at your school? Number 2, how much respect do colleagues in your school show you? And number 3, how confident are you that adults at your school can have honest conversations with each other about race? So I separated these out so that you could see that staff, which by the way, staff are anyone in our district that's not a certified teacher. Okay. So staff answered these questions in 2023 with 62% for belonging, 61% in 2024, and the national average is 68%. Cultural awareness and action was 62%, and then it went up to 63%. The national average is 59%. Professional learning was 45%. It went up or down to 44%. The national average is 52%. For teachers, in 2023, the sense of belonging was 64%. In 2024, 65%. The national average is 66%. Cultural awareness and action was 70% in 2023, 65% in 2024. The national average is 60%. Professional learning, 41% in 2023, 39% in 2024, with a national average of 47%. And for families, they're asked about family support, and in that category, families' perception of the amount of academic and social support that they provide their child with outside of school. worded very strangely, but that is the exact way it's worded in Panorama. Makes it hard to read. School safety, perceptions of student physical and psychological safety at school, and school climate is perceptions of the overall school and learning climate of the school. Some sample questions that families see. The first one is, how often do you have conversations with your child about what his or her class is learning at school? And the second one, how well do you know your child's close friends? And a third sample, how fair or unfair is the school system of evaluating children? And the feedback for the families in 2023, as far as family support, 71%, 2024, 70%, and the national average is 77%. School safety in 2023 was 62%, 61% this spring. The national average is 80%. School climate in 2023 was 56%, 53% this spring, and the national average is 72%. Do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Mhm.
Appreciate that. Go ahead and start with Director Hoiby.
Some of it made me sad
Yeah, me too.
for our students, especially in teachers. What do we do with this?
Actually, this team of folks right here actually do the hard work with it. I just report, so I'll let them answer.
So the first thing, it's really loud, sorry, is that we have a practice for the buildings that I work with where this information goes direct, it's very loud. This information goes directly to the building. So they have staff meetings where they review this as part of their school improvement goals under climate and culture and can dive in. This is really high level information, which doesn't give you much direction. So it's about conversations.
So each school gets their individual data.
Yeah, and individual schools have different highs and lows
Right.
too, which is kind of interesting that there is quite a variance there.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I can speak a little bit to what Lori Knudsen does with the elementary side, where she's actually been working with specific schools on breaking down their data to a really granular level. And so there were a few schools who had reached out to start that, and then she's actually going to be able to get through all of her schools by the end of the year is the hope. And so they'll be able to figure out how they might tweak certain practices with recruitment for parent support and things of that nature based on that feedback. But then also thinking about how to leverage the teams that exist in buildings to improve in other capacities as well. So that's my elevator pitch of what Lori's been doing.
Dr. Michael.
I was going to say, I think you really touched on what my question always is how to, it's great to have the data, but how do we use it? I think for me, I'd be interested in hearing from a principal or someone just to kind of understand, hey, this is what happens when we get this data and this is what we're doing with it. And I can, I guess, just assume that when your sense of belonging and school climate, when those things improve, I guess I would assume that school safety also improves. Just a guess. And I guess I would also just echo your comment about, I would like to see these numbers grow. And seeing numbers like this, but then also knowing that in our middle schools, especially, like you see, there's a lot of good things that are happening and a lot of great activities. So then where are we kind of missing those kids and how can we pull them in? Because if we can catch them in middle school, I think that just makes the rest of it better, maybe. And then, yeah, I just, when we get to families and looking at school climate, I think one of the things that this makes me think about is I know families, I think sometimes get frustrated and have a perception of what's happening in school with respect to how kids are treated. And so just thinking about what we can do to bring families into schools, how we can educate them about behaviors that are expected at school, how we can, just kind of communicate to folks a little bit more about that piece. But appreciate all the data.
James?
So my first question is there a way to like view all the data like by question by school, or is there no way for the public to view that?
I think that if I remember right, Ellie, did you put that on the website?
Okay.
Yeah, it is on our website and I couldn't tell you the exact link, but Ellie behind you, she knows.
Okay, good to know it's on there.
Yeah.
Also the family response percentages was very low. So is there a way we can reach out to families about this more so we just can get a better sample size of families and what they think about what's going on? Because that was a very small percentage of them.
It is a small percentage, you're right. Right.
Or-
Hello, I can answer that as the Executive Director of Equity and Family Engagement. One of the things that I've been working with an organization called WOBS on is trying to improve some of our mechanisms for getting feedback from families. And so one of the things that I'm trying to partner with them is doing different things to incentivize participation. And then also working with our school leaders on making sure that when there are events that are for the whole family, that they have like kiosks where this can be completed during certain times and things like that. So we're definitely trying to do a little bit of out of the box thinking, I'll say. And then I'm always trying to find partners to make it a little bit more engaging. So keep you
Yeah.
posted on that.
Could you just like email it out to families? Because I'm sure there's plenty of people that are like invested in that. But they may not know of it. So maybe just a simple email would get some more. I don't know.
And we've done a lot of
Yeah.
emailing and we've
Okay.
also used some of our other
Okay.
communication features, which Jody knows the names of better than I do, to do that. Sometimes, I don't know, I'm feeling kind of post-pandemic, it's not as effective. So if you're like, hey, if you go and you're one of the first 50 to do it, you could win a gift card. Like that might get people to do it. So gonna try to figure out ways to do things like that.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks, James. Yeah, so looking at the decrease in enrollment between grades 3 through 5 and 6 through 12, I mean, it's the difference is 6 to 7%. So, essentially almost the same. Do we know a good reason for that? Is that part of declining enrollments, just not participating?
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I've met some middle schoolers that are just, it's not as cool to fill out surveys as it is when you're in elementary school. In elementary school, as a former teacher, I could hype up an elementary school, a little student a little quicker.
Yeah.
But I have to say, I think those who teach middle school have got a special gift that I don't carry.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mhm.
And then, kind of looking at the grade 6 through 12, that kind of falls into that makes me sad category that Director Hody brought up. The delta between the national average and our 23 and 24 numbers is significant.
Yeah.
So I guess a couple questions. National average, is that an average for the same years?
Yes, it is a national, it's exactly the same years and it came straight from Panorama. So all the questions they have are national,
And questions?
same exact questions, same exact verbiage, same exact age group. Everything about it is normed and very specific.
Okay, so yeah, it'd be kind of hard to put a label on that, like, pandemic, post-pandemic kids or COVID, because, that the rest of that 70% went through the same
Exactly.
issues.
Really, the differences would just be where they live in the nation because it's nationwide. And I would imagine some things are different, but not everything.
Definitely got work to do. And then, kind of piggyback on James's question on the low turnout with families
Mhm.
being 0.05%. Do we have a number on that? How many families actually participated?
Let me see, right here I have it. In the spring, it was 564 of 23. And of 24, it was 865. And the way I got the percentage was based on the number of students divided by that.
right, well, thank you for the presentation. Like I said, I think
Thought of another question.
we got work to do. Oh, go on, James.
Yeah, is there like a history, like it'd be neat to see a graph like a few more years into the past, or because we've done it for a couple of years now, haven't we? Yeah.
And we've done it a couple of years. The only difference is, so this year and last year, the questions have been normed and they've been the same from Panorama. The year prior, the questions were not normed. They were kind of custom questions from our district. So they wouldn't be as comparable. So we wouldn't be able to do nationwide. What we did as a group that year was we built them based on our community and kind of what the community was happening in our community, what they needed, wanted, had some parent input, staff input for those. So they're a little bit different.
Any further questions? All right, thank you, Melissa.
Thank you.
All right, next in our work study, we have insurance coverage presentation and discussion presented by Dr. Zach Robbins, Superintendent.
Thank you so much, sir. If we can please pull up that presentation. Thank you. Let's go to the next slide, please. So we're going to begin with the introduction and we'll talk about coverage. We'll talk about claims, give a bit of a chronology and next steps, and then open things up for questions. Next slide, please. So school districts in Washington are required to have insurance coverage just to cover a lot of things that happen in the day-to-day operations of schools. It can be anything from facilities issues, bodily injuries, employee issues, and many other things. So in mid-March, the Washington State Risk Management Pool made a business decision to not renew the district's membership. And since then, we took immediate action to identify another carrier. We're also working with a brokerage firm, which is typically how it's done. And we're also considering the possibility of an appeal of the risk management pool's decision. Let's go to the next slide. So just to understand, what does the insurance coverage pay for? First, school districts have several different kinds of insurance policies that cover a wide variety of things. There's general liability, which is protection from lawsuits due to injury, property damage, things that happen on school grounds. Property insurance, covering the buildings, the buses, equipment, damage from fire, theft, and vandalism and natural disasters. Then there's employee practices liability insurance, which protects the district from lawsuits alleging discrimination, wrongful termination, and other employee-related issues. And then there's umbrella liability, which covers beyond the limits of our primary general liability. Let's go to the next slide. So the school district insurance policies have specified ways of reporting claims. And not all incidents or reports become claims. So we're very prudent in our review and submission of incidents. There are numerous open claims from past years that take time to process legally. So there may be things from 2014, 2020, 2021 that just take time to process legally. And what we do is we always try to resolve matters before they become a claim. Let's go to the next slide, please. There has been a lot of work to mitigate risk. So General Counsel has been reviewing our district policies and procedures so we can tighten them up and just mitigate against claims. The funds that we're receiving from capital facility repairs from the state are going to help, and the property exchange from the city are going to help us address some of our facility issues. The seismic upgrade project at Totem also beneficial for mitigating risks. We're also providing training and access to procedural documents and resources. So occasionally you will see, or the staff will get various emails about things that we all can do to mitigate risk through our company email. And all district and staff, they have to participate in training. And all of those things are efforts that we take to mitigate risk. Let's have the next slide. So a chronology, we've been a part of the Washington State Risk Management Pool. On the 8th of March, we received a letter notifying us that we would no longer be eligible to utilize that coverage. And since then, we've been exploring a lot of options and things are moving along very much. Let's have the next slide. So we're working with this brokerage firm because that's how it works. You actually identify brokerage firms to help you identify your insurance carrier. And right now they've completed their profile already. And we're in the process of identifying the right insurer for the district. So we can actually go into next steps. So we have a meeting scheduled in June. And in that meeting, they're going to present different types of insurers, different pools. And the firm's goal is to provide us with the best option. So we're expecting that to happen in June. So we've already completed our application. We already have the brokerage consultants plugged in. The follow-up meeting is coming up in a couple of weeks and we'll review options and then we'll select an insurer. And that is my report.
Thank you, Dr. Robbins. Go ahead and start with Director Hoiby.
Do we know if an appeal is possible?
Yes, an appeal is possible.
And then where would that fit in with the order of the next steps?
So we really need to wait until we have that conversation in June, because in June we may be done, which is what we suspect in terms of
Oh.
identifying another carrier. So, and then also, just because it is a legal appeal, I don't want to get into too much conversation about it, but just know that an appeal is possible.
As possible, okay. Do we expect our insurance to go up because we were turned down?
I expect our insurance to go up because insurance costs are going up,
On it?
in addition to the fact that we pose risk.
Right, okay. That's all I have.
Dr. Michael?
So I guess my questions center around some things that aren't necessarily here, but part of the communications that we've received. And well, I guess I have a couple. I'll start there. And I have some other things about this. So some of the items, like you mentioned, like they're things that happen that legally just take a while to resolve and that are coming to fruition now. Some of the items that happened, I think happened in November when we were borrowing $5 million because we needed to borrow $5 million and we were successful in the risk pool covered us, which was great. I think some of the items I'm curious about, and, we were talking about things we're doing to mitigate risks in terms of, we know that we have a lot to do and we're going to get a building report. There's a lot of things that we need to address there. I think the letter mentioned something about, and I don't know if you can always stop me, but something about there was maybe a labor issue and they had a hard time accessing buildings. Has that been resolved?
So I actually asked our team if anyone knew what that meant, and the answer was no.
Okay.
Because at no point have we not been able to allow any representative of the risk pool to enter our building. So that's a mystery to everyone. So that's something that we would need to follow up with them on. But no, there has been no labor issue that made it difficult for them to access the buildings.
Okay.
And as I look at the executive team's faces, none of us know what that means.
Okay.
Because even Greg, who does facilities, that just hasn't been the case.
Okay. And then, obviously the EPLI claims they are an anomaly. And so I guess I'm curious if we have done an analysis there to understand the why, Are they similar in nature? Are they? So I guess I'm just curious about that, right? Because anytime you have something that kind of is unusual, it's like, well, what happened?
So in looking at those claims, there's nothing that jumps out as unusual. It's just the business of a school district with a lot of employees being the largest employer in Marysville.
Okay. Well, okay. I think it might, okay. Um, okay. And then, I guess I'm just curious for just a little more information on kind of on the mitigating risk side and the training and the procedural documents and resources. You know, and I know, kind of coming in a year ago and you've been here 2 years now, and some of the things that you have observed, part of the rationale for bringing on, you know, council is to really dive into some of this, because there were some patterns that were potentially concerning, so. So I guess I appreciate the addition of having the district attorney, and I guess I'm curious a little bit more. I mean, I see the annual training and some of those other things. Just, do folks have to sign off? I mean, like what happens?
So just as a concrete example, we've recently sent out to the workforce guidance around search and seizure. Just to make sure people know know what to expect, know that administrators search students' bags or someone else unless that the administrator may designate, but it's not appropriate for any staff member to just start rifling through things or asking students to do a precarious kind of search for evidence of wrongdoing, just things that folks may not know. And when you look all over the country, you see these stories of people who have inappropriately conducted searches of students, and it becomes a factor. So that's just one concrete example of the kind of things we do in order to mitigate risk. And of course, we have the Safe Schools training. Of course, when we begin the school year, we talk to administrators about things to be mindful of in order to mitigate risk, making sure that we report any sort of building issues as soon as possible, as soon as they happen. So those are the kinds of things that we do.
And then obviously it's concerning. But from my understanding, you've taken immediate action to go find additional coverage, and the team has been working to pull all the information together and have that happen quickly.
Correct. And the information has all been pulled together. And that's why we have this meeting coming up in the next couple of weeks. And we just hope that that's going to be the meeting where we identify a carrier that works. That's what we expect.
May have a few more, but I will let you go.
Okay, so I guess some of the questions I have are, around the training. I wrote some notes on that when you talk about the Safe Schools training. When is this training, and how does staff and teachers access the training? And is there a policy on that training so that there's clear guidelines on this is a requirement if it's part of our mitigating our risk? Same with like HIB, knowing that those requirements and people have a clear understanding of how they may access or file a complaint, so that we're not putting ourselves liable for some of these HIB complaints. and such.
Yes, ma'am. It is expected that employees go through their vector training when we begin the school year, which mitigates against risk. Of course, Safe Schools and how we engage with students, that mitigates risk. The right response training, and of course, making sure that people understand how to file HIB complaints whenever there is harassment, intimidation, and bullying. All those things, while these trainings are mandatory, Vector, Safe Schools, all those trainings in order to mitigate risk. And of course, we make sure we are required to make sure everyone understands how to file HIB complaints.
Okay. And then when we're thinking about, well, one of the bullets here is the general counsel undergoing an extensive review of district policies and procedures, tightening them up to mitigate potential claims. How, I know that we've been getting first reads of policies, but I'm just curious about how, like the strategy of overhauling all of our policies and making sure that we're in compliance with everything. So like, what is that process looking like? Is it, I know we started with the board policies. So just a little bit on that.
That process is moving along. So when we actually have general counsel present policies for first reads and then acceptance, we are doing things also in those policies will be things that we do to mitigate risk. So we just continue with that process. So when WASDA gives us the actual red lines, they are presented to the board so you all can vote them into policy.
And we're up to date on all the policies that we were directed to update.
We are still working toward that. When I started, there were a lot of policies that were out of date. So we were updating them last year at a breakneck pace, and we are continuing to do that now. And in fact, of course, we've been having some discussions about even speeding up what we're doing now.
And then one other last question that I have is around like looking at an appeal. When looking at that letter, did we respond to that? I haven't seen that.
So responding to that letter,
Some
so
of the concerns that were brought forward from risk pool.
yes.
And I'm just curious about the nature of our response and I guess the process of appeal. How does that look?
So in terms of the process of appeal, we just have to actually go through the step of saying we would like to appeal this decision to all of the risk pool administrative members. That would be the next step.
And we're not out of a timeline or something, because,
No, ma'am.
okay.
James?
Okay. Sorry. So, what led to the pool, dropping our district from insurance? Is it like a thing we did or just things going on in the district? Just like, why were we dropped?
They made a business decision to drop us from their coverage, in part because they said that we had a number of claims and we posed just a lot of risk.
So we were notified in March, right? Early March. And it's May. So this is a very significant thing because insurance is like required to operate. So why did the district wait this long to like notify anyone? I'm just curious.
Because in part, there is a possibility of an appeal. And then number two, this is what doing business is. I mean, it's not every now and then you have to change your insurance carriers. So the combination of those two things.
So how much does the brokerage firm cost? Is there any costs associated with that, and what do those look like?
Right now, usually the brokerage will actually get paid, to my understanding, from the insurance company that we go with. So there is no cost to us.
Okay. I think that's all I have.
Thank you, James. So it's my understanding that there's different types of coverage. You kind of covered that a little bit, but can you go into a little bit of detail about what the difference between a risk pool and an insurance company is and what that means to us?
Yes, sir. To my understanding, when there's a risk pool, the members pay into the pool, and it is the payments from those members that is used to pay out settlements and things like that. When you have an insurance company, it is not based on, they are not limited is the best word I can use. They're not limited by how many contributions have been made to the pool. And also, to my understanding, they have a much aggressive investment strategy with the funds that they have.
And we're looking at both. We're looking at like are there other risk pools?
There are other risk pools. The Washington State Risk Management Pool, to my understanding, is the smaller or smallest pool here in the state, and there are other pools. as well as other carriers.
And uh, moving on to kind of those touch points that you talked about with training. I mean, how often you mentioned an email that dealt with search and seizure. I mean, how often or what type? I mean, we can talk about safe schools. One of the things that I want to touch on is whatever we're doing, it needs to be robust. I mean, that if we're in a situation where we are losing access to one risk pool versus insurance, I guess, carrier, because of the amount of claims that we have, we need to start mitigating that moving forward as much as possible. And if that's training, that's great, but that also isn't going to cover, like I think you mentioned, claims that are facilities-based claims. Somebody trips on something or gets hurt on something, or I've heard things, about water, right? Being an issue. So, those are all things that we need to wrap into more of a risk management plan. So it might be a good idea to have, while this is kind of a hot topic, a presentations, maybe a work study in some of the upcoming meetings, just to go over what are we doing about how robust can this be? How robust is it now and how robust can it be?
So if I can comment on that.
Please.
One of the things that the insurance brokers talk to us about is the fact that they can help us with whichever company we go with. There's an expectation they're going to help us figure out how we can continue to mitigate risk. So they explained to us when we met with the brokers that's when we learned that there were other pools, and the insurance brokers explained, which I didn't know initially, that the Washington State Risk Management Pool is a small pool in comparison to others that are out there. So when the brokers gave us that information, I was very appreciative, along with their explanation that they can help us by looking at all of our claims and figure out ways to mitigate risk.
Okay, thank you. And just a note on the policy updates that Director Davis mentioned. From WASDA, Director Davis, they come with a priority. For lack of a better term, some are required, some are nice to have. So what we've done in the policy committee is focus on the requireds and to get those taken care of, and then we can move on into some of the nice to haves, and especially the ones that are specific to the district that are kind of unique to us. Yeah. Last round. James, good. All right. Thank you, Dr. Robbins. And that'll conclude our work study. It is 5:43.
Recording
We'll start
stopped.
back up at 6
Recording in
o'clock.
progress.
Thank you for being with us.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
If it doesn't. Right.
Recording in progress.
All right, welcome, everybody. It is 6 o'clock. I'm going to call this meeting to order on 20th day of May, 2024. First item on the agenda, actually is to excuse Connor Krebs. He is, out ill today. Next, we have our flag salute. So if everybody could please stand and join us for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We acknowledge the original inhabitants of this area, the Snohomish people and their successors, the Tulalip tribes. Since time immemorial, they have hunted, fished, gathered, and taken care of these lands. We respect their sovereignty, their right to self-determination, and honor their sacred spiritual connection with the land and the water. We'll strive to be honest about our past mistakes and bring about a future that includes their people, stories, and voices to form a more just and equitable society. This time, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any conversation? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Item F on the agenda is our superintendent's report presented by Superintendent Dr. Zach Robbins.
Thank you, President Reinhardt, members of the board, Zach Robbins for the record. The city council and school board held a joint meeting last Monday where they took action to approve the property exchange agreement between the two entities. The property exchange is a win-win for the city and the district. I appreciate all parties' time, effort, and thoughtful decision-making in this process. The district will move to the building on State Avenue in June of 2025. Last week, we honored students Claire Michael and Gianna Frank and community member Ron Friesen at the Washington Association of School Administrators Regional Awards Recognition event. I was honored and privileged to recognize these outstanding individuals at the annual event. High school commencement ceremonies and the exciting end of the year senior activities are upon us. Tulalip Heritage Commencement will be held on June 5th at the Tulalip Gathering Hall. MGMP and Legacy High School ceremonies will be held June 7th at the Angel of the Winds Arena. The revised comprehensive financial plan was submitted to OSPI and the ESD on May 15th, meeting the required deadline. We are looking forward to a positive outcome as a result of the plan's revisions. Our students are the district's top priority and the lifeblood of our schools, and they continue to be our focus. Great things happen in our schools every day. Our educators, support staff, and school and district leaders are committed to the success of each student we serve. We will be okay. We will continue working with OSPI and ESD to resolve the financial deficit according to the binding conditions requirements. Additional reductions will be necessary to meet those requirements out of respect for all employees that the potential reductions may impact for the 2024-2025 school year. Those areas of reduction will be made public only after all affected staff have been notified. It is important to note under their collective bargaining agreements and state law, certificated teachers impacted by the budget reductions were notified on May 15th of 2024. And that is my report.
All right, thank you, Dr. Robbins. Next, we're going to move on to communication reports. Looks like we've got the Seroptimist Student of the Month presented by Shannon Murray. Welcome.
Thank you. Dr. Robbins and school board members and members of the community. As he just said, my name is Shannon Murray, and I represent the Seroptimists International of Marysville. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Seroptimists, we're a local chapter of a global volunteer organization supporting and empowering women and young girls through education and training. And each month we interview several high school students, both girls and boys, who've been nominated by their teachers and counselors as outstanding individuals. And recently we interviewed students from Marysville Pilchuck High School. And for the Student of the Month Award, our committee judges the students not only on their academics, but also on leadership, community service, which is very important to our group, and pride in their work. And today I'm very honored to recognize, although I don't think he can be here, Tyee Eliason. No, he wasn't able to get here, but I still wanted to acknowledge him and recognize him because he's a great student and just a great young man. He's heavily involved in NJROTC, and he ended the year as an E7 Chief Petty Officer. He earned a silver cord at the Northwest Leadership Academy recently in Oregon. He volunteers for both Volunteers of America, the Boys and Girls Club, and several food bank events. Let's see, he's got a U.S. Marine Corps Certificate of Meritorious Achievement as a Distinguished Athlete, a National Sojourners Award, recognizing the highest attributes of Americanism. And this young man is so patriotic. If anyone's on Facebook, you need to look him up, Tyee Eliason. One of his big missions is veteran suicide awareness and prevention. And he makes a post every day and he does 4 sets of push-ups every single day. He's been doing this for a while now. He's on day 1,297 as of this morning, almost 1,300 days consistently. So, and just that consistency alone is going to take him so far in the world. He's got over 1,000 followers, and it's just so inspiring to tune in. So I encourage you to, if you can look him up, you'll really be inspired by listening to his message, which he gives every day, and watching him go through this process. His plans after high school are to enlist in the Army, and he's eventually interested in a career in as a mental health counselor or physical therapy. So we were just really impressed with this young man. All of the students that we've introduced this year have just shown such great character inside and outside the classroom. So impressive. And mostly our Soroptimist group would like to thank everyone, the community, teachers, the families of all of these students, because they really are a bright light. It's one of my most favorite things I do as Soroptimist is talking to these students. And it's easy to get overwhelmed with all the things that aren't working that we hear about so easily. But these students just really do shine a light. So thank you to everyone who helps support the students.
Thank you. Yeah, and congratulations to Tyee. I think that if you have a plaque or something like that, we'll make sure that that gets to him. Yeah, thank you again. Yeah. He's not here, but let's give him a round of applause. Okay, next up on our, looks like staff, student and board reports, we have James Feria, policy 1250, students on governing boards report. Are you ready for us, James?
Yeah.
You want to do it from there? You want to?
Oh, yeah, I guess I should. Actually, didn't think of that.
It's up to you. You can. Okay.
I'm so used to just sitting in my comfy chair over there. All right. So, over the last 6 months, I've been working on revising the policy 1250 and the procedure 1250P, which both pertain to student representatives, what me and Cheyenne are, and Dominic, student representatives to the school board. I've gotten feedback from my teachers, multiple board members, students, my fellow representatives, and community members. I've done it to improve this great opportunity for future students and to improve the feedback that the district receives from us. I've also incorporated the process of writing and proposing the policy into my civil action project for my AP government class, which makes students get involved in their local community to make change. So the main change I made to the policy and procedure was adding an advisory vote for the students' reps. An advisory vote was recommended by the Washington State School Districts Association's Student Rep Network in 2022 to authentically engage student reps. To explain what an advisory vote is, I'll quote the proposed procedure, which adapts this section from an Everett School District procedure. For agenda items that include voting, after discussion closes, but before the directors vote, the board president will turn to the student representatives and ask them to provide their advisory votes of pro, con, or abstain. After taking the student advisory votes, the board takes its vote. So basically what all it is a simple vote that clarifies students' thoughts and ensures that our opinion and perspective is heard. I also specified in the policy itself, or sorry, the procedure, that we are allowed to express our opinions, just so the board will know what the student body and what the student representatives are thinking. I also specified that the schools would select students to send to the board for interviews, since the people working with kids every day would know who would be good as a rep. Right now, it's just kind of an ambiguous process that the district will choose students from possibly the superintendent advisory committee. But I think a better way to do it would be to have the schools, like teachers, counselors who is working with students every single day, to select the students to send to get interviewed by the board, because they will know who will be the best to serve on the board because they work with them every day. I also edited a point so that people who are going less than half time cannot be student board reps, because if people are only going to like 2 classes a day and they're going to Running Star the rest of the day, they're not super involved in the school itself. I mean, they can still do extracurriculars and stuff, but I think we should have people that are really in our schools every day, interacting with other kids, seeing what's going on. They would be the best reps. And this is something I've heard from other people a lot about. So yeah. And then I also added a point under responsibilities that student reps should work to inform the student body about things going on in the district, and they should work to receive more feedback from students. So in the future, this should foster more communication and make representative sort of a liaison between students and the district and the board. Because we were supposed to do that this year, but we never really got around to it. So hopefully this being in the procedure should spur kids in the future to make that communication happen more. As the district will continue to go through more tumultuous times, student representatives will be very helpful in keeping the board and leadership grounded to what students are thinking and feeling. The policy should help this great program improve, continue into the future, and ensure that the district gets valuable student feedback. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, James. Beth?
So, I don't really have a question. It just, something you said about the way the students were selected made me think of, when Director Michael and I went to the WASDA conference. We went to a session about the student boards, and, do you remember what district? It was Eastern Washington somewhere in the Pasco?
I feel like it
Pasco?
was Richland. Okay, so Tri-Cities, so we're in the
Tri-Cities.
general area there.
So they have a really strong group, and the way they do it is they whoever applies from the student body to be on the student advisory board, anybody that doesn't make it then is automatically placed with the superintendent board, which I thought was kind of cool. So then all the kids that want to be involved will be involved somehow. So that's, it's good to always be thinking of what better ways to engage
Yeah,
students.
that sounds like a great idea. And I also added at the end of the procedure that, oh, I just moved my tab to a different window. Okay. So I already said that student representatives will provide annually an evaluation of their experience to the experience, but it ended there. So I specified that we would evaluate our experience to the board, just so it's more direct. So hopefully that could happen, just so could be in a work study. So we can just explain our experience, and then in that period, we can also look over the policy and revise it and add anything that the future student reps would want in the future. So we can always add different things to
Especially since this is a fairly new thing.
it. Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Hovey. Director Michael?
I hope your AP Gov teacher is watching.
I believe she
Take care.
is. And
Or
Zoom.
it's at least recorded,
Uh-huh.
so,
Yep.
great presentation. Good job going through all of this. I think it's pretty comprehensive and I appreciate some of the changes that you've added in here are, when we look at the red lines,
Mhm.
are they WASDA changes or a mix of WASDA and kind of some of your suggestions?
So these are mostly my suggestions. I adapted some of the WASDA Student Network or just that one recommendation to add an advisory vote. And then I took and edited the Everett School District procedure. Just
Okay.
stole it because that's a
Sure.
common practice in policies. I also, the original procedure is riddled with grammatical inaccuracies, so I fixed those too because I was like, couldn't like stand them. So that's what like half the edits are.
Let's hope your English teacher is watching
Uh-huh.
also. That's extra credit, right? No, nice job. Thank you. And I appreciate you just taking the time and putting in the effort. I mean, you've been a consistent participant.
Mhm.
And since we are relatively new, I think you guys are the first class of, I mean, I guess there might have been student board representatives
About half a
before,
year.
but I feel like.
Yeah, they were only
uh,
around for like a couple months before they had to graduate. So yeah.
So having your perspective, I think is really helpful.
Yeah, so hopefully that hopefully the schools choosing students should help pick some really good candidates that are like they know that are invested in the community and like good at public speaking and that kind of sort of thing.
Thank you. Nice job.
One of the questions I would have, was about students enrolled in at least half-time. You mean specifically, like, they're not going to, like, Running Start, right? Because Heritage, which we don't have a representative here from Heritage,
It is in the plan that we will have it. It was also in the original one, but we weren't following the procedure. So hopefully with this, it will reinforce that we're supposed to be following this procedure.
but they do the place-based learning. So does that then mean that because the majority of their time they're at their internships?
Mm.
So I just want to make sure that we're not putting something in here that's gonna exclude a high school.
That was just in the procedure part and it's discretionary. So, I mean, it specifies that we'd have people from Heritage. So,
Yeah,
yeah. And it's,
go ahead, James.
it's specifically supposed to include people that go to Snow Owl because they go for half the day, but they're still going to school enough and they'll be back next year. And I'll just to exclude people that go mostly to Running Start. So, yeah, it should include those people.
I do think that it is important to, like how you're saying, a process through the schools.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just think you did a really good job and appreciate your good work.
Thank you.
Cheyenne? Sorry. to
Being
surprise you.
questioned by my own now.
Um,
Yeah, I'm gonna skip you, James.
I think for the most part, I've already had all my questions answered, but he's been working on this for an incredibly long time. And I'm just so happy to see all the dedication that he's put into it because he's done a lot of research and he's been connecting with so many people. So it's good to see that all this has worked out for him.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cheyenne. Yeah, I mean, most of the stuff that I had us covered already, but I really like the point that you're making with a little bit more activity with the student body. Having somebody that is, gonna go get a really good temperature of what's going on with their peers and bring that back to the boardroom. Because that's kind of the point, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
So, making that a little bit more robust would be great. And I appreciate you putting that in there.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
All right.
Okay, next up, we have a technology department presentation presented by Mr. Alvin Cooper, Executive Director.
Sir, we need to table that one.
Okay, that one's not here. All right. Informational Situation Report, Asset Preservation Program, OSPI, and Annual Board Report presented by Greg Dennis. Greg's here.
And not talking about technology. Good evening, board members and Superintendent Robbins. I bring before you tonight a requirement from OSPI for us to annually go through and review any of our buildings that have received state match in the last 30 years. That's part of the requirement of receiving state match. So hopefully you don't want me to go through line by line the whole 60-some page document. And I can give you a overview of the process. So basically, Allen Creek, Quilceda, Grove, what we call the TUV buildings at Marysville Pilchuck, all the buildings at Marysville Getchell, and the gym building at Marysville Tulalip campus are all within that 30 years still of receiving state match. And so we have to go through and this year was a self-review year. So some years are certified review. This year, our next certified review is not till 2028. This year was a self-review. So we go through and we list the conditions of the buildings. They break them down, you know, interior, exterior, roof, walls, floor coverings, etc. You go through and rate them excellent, good, fair, poor, or unsatisfactory. And anything below excellent or good, you have to notate why it's in poor condition. And then an example of like Allen Creek, we replaced a roof about 5 years ago. So that would have went from a good back to an excellent because it was within that 30 years still. So it would have been documented as opposed to Quilceda, where we haven't had to replace a roof yet, even though it's the same vintage. It's at end of life. So it's down in the good category because it's not leaking. But it does need to be replaced. So that's just a simple example of what this report has in it, or what we had to score for this report for the self-review for this year. And then if you don't do it, OSPI can withhold future state match from you. You know, if you were to run a successful bond, doesn't mean that they're going to participate. So this is important that we do this every year. Any questions about the process, or it's informational only? Presenting it to the board is also one of the requirements.
So this just helps you prioritize where we need to be focusing.
It lets OSPI know where we're at and that we're maintaining our buildings, especially the ones that they help fund. You know, we qualify for 40-some% state match when we run a bond. That equates to about 25 cents on the dollar of actual construction costs because there's a formula they use that doesn't fund us at the 40-some%. But they just want to make sure that we're maintaining their building that they help pay for as well.
Thank you for doing this tedious work because it seemed, I did open it. I was like, there's a lot of stuff to look at.
There is, and I'm really glad you didn't want to go over it line by line.
Yeah.
Find my way.
I haven't gotten to me yet. Just kidding. So I did go through most all of it. And then I guess one of my questions was, so first, is there opportunity for folks in the buildings to provide input? Because I'm assuming that the people who are in the buildings every day, they're the ones that notice, you know.
Yeah, we usually do it with work orders, you know, tracking the work orders, what we're getting repetitive things on, and then the custodians that are in the buildings, working on the buildings, maintenance techs that are working in the buildings, they all have input into this.
And then the items that are on this report have been reported elsewhere. So there's some, you know, there's some things, and I'm curious how the follow-up happens, right? So the process for items that are concerning don't first show up here. They first show up someplace else and then are prioritized and taken care of.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So like the roof example I gave, Quilceda's roof this year is in good condition. We're getting proposals to replace that roof. And so if we were to go out and replace that roof, obviously it would move to an excellent condition, no longer be in fair condition. And so then we would just note in there that, you know, roof was replaced, blah, 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 of 2024, 2025, or whenever we replace that roof. OSPI just checks to make sure it's done. They're not really reviewing what our scores are. They're just making sure that we're going through and scoring them properly.
Okay.
Dr.
You
Davis?
don't look comfortable with that answer yet. Or something was in your eye.
Okay, maybe a little bit of both. No, I think it's fine. I mean,
Okay.
and really, I think the point that I'm just trying to get to is that, anything that's noted here is on someone's list and taken care of.
Correct. This is on our capital projects list. It's on our, you know, we received the 3.6 million to distress schools grant.
Right.
Some of the things that have been marked here as, you know, fair. We don't have a lot of poor, but we do have quite a few fair. Those are the things that are on our list for replacement or update.
Thank you.
I'm curious, is this, do you guys just input all of this into this report or like, do you have a software that tracks the assets?
Yeah, so OSPI has a platform, it's called ICOS, which is basically your building condition assessment. You go through it and you know of all the different categories, what condition, right? Excellent, good, fair, poor, unsatisfactory. And then it's just a check a box and then put your notes in there if there's any notes to add.
So you use that every time you like process a work order or something?
No, so that's just for this reporting to OSPI.
Okay.
And it's just it's one of their databases that we're working in
Okay.
through the EDS system. And so we go in and populate this. That it doesn't relate back to our work order system or anything like that. This is just a platform for them to see that we're continuing to maintain our buildings that they helped fund in the last 30 years. You bet.
Student reps?
James is all talked out.
Yeah. Could you just touch a little bit on the matches? I know you did a little bit earlier, but a little bit deeper dive on what that looks like, what it is, how we've used it, how it benefits us.
Yeah, so 2006 was our last successful bond measure. Of that, again, OSPI funds at 40-some%. There's a formula they use based on your free and reduced population and all these things, but they fund it based on a set dollar amount. So at the time when we were constructing the buildings from the 2006 bond, we were paying about $250, $275 a square foot for construction. OSPI only matched us at $175 a square foot. So they were giving us 46% of that $175 a square foot. Everything else had to come out of the local bond. Same for fixtures, furnishing, and equipment. When you're outfitting these buildings, they're funding you at kind of their standard prototypical model of what you need in those buildings. If you decide you wanted a different chair that costs more money, you know, student chair, table, or something like that, you would have to pay for that out of your bond money. And so the net, so when we built, I'll say Grove Elementary was the easy numbers. We spent 20 million and received 5 million in state match for the $25 million project. But they funded us at 46% state match, even though we only saw 25 cents on the dollar.
Sure. And so that you're talking right there about, you know, a new bond or a new building. What about moving forward with repairs and updates or upgrades?
They don't match any of that unless it's a major renovation. Like if you were to go through and update a 30-year-old plus building, and that would be there's new funding for building a new school, and then there's in lieu of. So if you did a full remodel on a building, they will fund that again at their formula level. And that would be us, you know, running a bond and passing a bond and updating the, you know, a lot of school districts have those historical schools that instead of tearing down, they're going to rebuild, right? Tacoma's got one that's been in several movies and stuff like that, but they continue, I don't remember what the name of it is, but they put money into remodeling that. instead of rebuilding it or building a new one.
Okay. Hey, that's it from me. Anything else? All right, thanks, Greg.
Yep, thanks, guys.
All right, next up, we have insurance coverage update presented by Dr. Zach Robbins, Superintendent.
Thank you, sir. As I reported in the work study, we've been working closely with insurance brokers to select our next insurance carrier. We look forward to our meeting with the brokers in June. We continue to work to mitigate risk through training and updates to the staff. Our coverage will be discontinued with our current carrier at the end of August, and we are very much looking forward to this meeting in June. And that is my report.
Thank you. Department updates. Department updates, Jody.
Go ahead and,
You want to go?
my end, you're.
Yeah, go ahead and start on the
Okay, and I got
department.
a new microphone, so I think it will be okay. So secondary education, very recently, we have been tackling some alignment around the mastery-based crediting and that policy and making sure that we have equitable access to that process in all of our high schools. So that's important work to be getting done. We're also doing the behind the scenes work to deliver a smooth and effective summer school. Again, takes a little bit of work in the high school to get that credit recovery program up and running, but we are close and we're getting ready to start staffing that and getting kids their choices met for that program. Thank you.
Good evening. The Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, also known as CPAC, met in early May and received a presentation on the differences between Section 504 and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, also known as IDEA. The last CPAC meeting for the school year will be on June 6th, and we look forward to seeing parents then. Our Student Services Department successfully implemented healthy relationship groups and engaged in a kindness campaign to decrease bullying. The department is partnering with Hope for Homies and are planning a community wellness carnival June 15th from 3 to 6 p.m. And lastly, special education used assistive technology funds to purchase a core words board for the elementary playgrounds. These boards will assist students who may struggle with communicating to indicate their wants and needs. So we'd like to thank everyone who gave input into that project getting into place, including our amazing SLPs and OTs.
Good evening again, Dr. Courtney Hill, Equity Family Engagement. This week, I will highlight our migrant education program. On Saturday, we had our first ever migrant education program Wellness Day, which was for students in grades 6 through 12 and their parents. And so at that event, families were able to get access to information about physical health, mental health, and emotional health. Some of the highlights were making medicine bags. And so mixing different herbs together to bring, health and sort of more positive thinking into the work. That was really popular. And there were also opportunities for folks to learn more about how their community impacts health. So that was very, actually just very well attended and very, folks were really gracious for the opportunity. We did not spend our full grant amount, which means we can roll the rest of it over into next year and do it again. So we have learned a lot from the experience and we're looking forward to doing it again next year.
Good evening, Lisa Gonzalez, Executive Director of Finance and Operations. 3 quick updates. First of all, summer school and summer projects. The summer programs are moving forward, as is the campus beautification at all campuses. With the approval of some of the distressed schools grant, we can also start spending that. And so we will get those updates to you as they come along. Summer EFT food service. This is the food service programs, but also other grants that are available. A huge shout out to Danny Vasquez and Lindsay Fitch. Every possible opportunity to apply for grant funds and get funding for our summer programs, they are exploring. And even when I ask them, hey, just found out about this, do you know about it? Oh yeah, we're already on top of that. So great to have a team that's able to do that. And finally, with our audit, at this point in time, we are likely expecting 2 findings. One around binding conditions. So because we're in binding conditions, we get a finding for binding conditions. The second one it still seems to be that the state of Washington and our school districts are combined with the FCC in a battle against our state auditor's office. Because what they are continuing to say is that there are claims for us and other districts, just like last year, that we did not spend funds appropriately. We spent $2.1 million on putting a device in the hands of every single child that needed them at the time during COVID. And there seems to be a disconnect between the FCC and our state auditor's office. And to give you some data points to try to paint that picture, the state of Washington receives 5% of all the funds in the nation for this program, and we had 90% of all of the findings. And so it's been pretty significant. There's a team of about 30 districts that I have now learned really went to battle on this last year, and it looks like we're in the same position now. So we continue to meet with representatives from the auditor's office, and it looks like within the next couple of days, we're actually getting the auditor's office and OSPI in the same exact meeting to try to have the conversation again. So we'll let you know how that progresses.
Lori Knutson, Executive Director of Elementary. Really happy to say we're working on our 2-year literacy and math professional development plan for elementary schools. For literacy, from June 17th to June 21st, our teachers will engage in intensive training covering the first 4 units of 8 sessions, focusing on language essentials for teachers of reading, which is letters. Our professional development Fridays next year will reinforce the Summer Institute's learning throughout the academic year. These sessions will facilitate collaboration learning around online modules, also by in-person training and support. Our elementary principals have had 2 trainings, so they can help facilitate this, and there'll be a 3rd one in August. For math, in June, administrators will receive some more training, specialized training, to support the adequate instructional supervision of our iReady math program. 2 scheduled walkthroughs will occur each year in the next 2 years with our facilitators from iReady, myself, the principal, following a diagnostic window in October and February. With the results of these walkthroughs, the post-walkthroughs consultants and myself will meet with the principals to review observations and collaboratively develop tailored plans to enhance math instruction, ensuring continuous improvement. So we will look at the outcomes of our walkthrough, our data in those diagnostic sessions, the twice a year, and then we'll come up with a plan twice a year and revisit and revise it with formative assessments throughout the year.
All right, thank you. Did we miss anybody? All right, Jody. 3rd time's a charm.
I think Claudette raised her hand on the Zoom meeting.
Is Claudette on Zoom?
Hi, I am. Can you all hear me? Hello? Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me?
Hi, Claudette.
Hey guys, I'm on Zoom. I was muted there for a bit, but now I'm not. So I can give you some quick updates for things I can talk about. You know, legal, it's hard to share too many things publicly due to attorney-client privilege. But this week I've been working on a lot of litigation management. I've been in depositions for some of our pending litigation down in Seattle today, so I'm remote. And I'll be in depositions for a large part of this week. Things worth sharing publicly. I'm doing the safety committee again tomorrow. It'll be the last one of the school year. It's a really great group. If anybody wants to pop by, it will be hybrid, both virtual and in person. And we've also convened the policy committee last week to talk about the policies that were tabled. And we got some great feedback from finance and IT and a lot of other stakeholders. So yeah, those are kind of the big takeaways from legal. Thanks.
Thank you, Claudette. All right,
Okay,
sorry.
sounds like we're getting some feedback. Is that working out? You probably don't want to hear me twice. We good now? Okay, good evening, everyone. Ellie, can you go ahead and pull up the upcoming events for our audience? Thank you. So we have a lot going on, as we all know. Dr. Robbins mentioned graduations, they're just around the corner. I don't want to miss letting everyone know that this is Educational Bosses Week, and this is a time where we ask our employees to thank our educational leaders. So thank you, Dr. Robbins, for your educational leadership in Marysville. If you look down through the list, we have more music coming your way. I do want to remind everyone that this Friday, May 24th, is a makeup day for that inclement weather day that we lost back in January. So Friday is a school day. It's a school day for staff. It's a school day for our students, and we will follow the Friday early release schedule. No school on Memorial Day. And then lots of elementary grad walks coming your way. Those are pretty fun. If you can stop in and check them out, that would be great. More coming up in June. I won't go through all of that, but just take a look at it. This is posted online and also available in your packet. So thank you so much and have a great evening.
Thank you, Jody. Okay, that wraps up our communications and reports. Next on the agenda, we have the hearing of business visitors. Per policy 1430, the board requires that those addressing the board be residents or employees of the district or representatives of such residents or employees. Parents or guardians of students enrolled in district schools or employees of businesses located within the district. Speakers are asked to present their name and resident city when they make public comments in person or remotely. Each individual has up to 3 minutes. Individuals wishing to combine their time must sign up on the speaker's clipboard. To combine time, parties must be present. A maximum of 2 people can combine their allotted time for a total of 6 minutes, allowing for broader representation of viewpoints. The maximum time allotted for hearing a business of visitors per agenda is 30 minutes. Complaints or charges about employees are not permissible. Please direct those towards the district, or they can be sent in to the superintendent in writing. All right. First up, we have Arden Watson.
Good evening, school board. My name is Arden Watson. I am a Marysville resident and a member of the current district budget committee. At our meeting on May 14th, it was shared by the chair of our committee, Lisa Gonzalez, that part of the district's plan to be submitted to OSPI the following day included the closing of 1 or more schools. And I was concerned to hear this because I was not, I'm not aware of any time when the community was shared with this information, provided opportunity for input to the board, which is the usual practice when there's a consideration to close a school or schools. So my question for you is, has the school board abdicated their role in a potential closing of schools, or is that still something that would be coming to be shared with the public? And when would that happen? You have my email. I would look forward to understanding what your process is. I'm very concerned that a plan to submit it to OSBI that's supposed to be the roadmap to show how you're going to exit binding conditions includes the closing of 1 or more schools when that has not had any conversation, or we have no idea if that's going to even come to fruition. So how that's part of your plan, that doesn't seem like a very fiscally responsible plan if you don't even know if that's going to be possible. If the board's going to vote for it, or if the community is going to support it. So I look forward to hearing more about how that's going to be shared with the community so that they can be part of that decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Davis.
Chris Davis, live in Marysville. James, dude. Right on. Seriously, like if you don't run for something, I'm gonna come find you when you get done with college. Sticking to the rules of public comments, we're gonna go over vocabulary tonight. So when I lived in California, to mitigate is caused by uninsured drivers, they instituted a policy that if you drive without a insurance in California and you get pulled over for whatever, it could just be like, hey, I saw you got married, congratulations. But then they ask for your insurance. If you don't have it, they give you a ticket for it, and then they will tow your car because you can't drive it home. You're breaking the law. So when I hear people talk about mitigating risk and talking about trainings to mitigate litigation, my question remains with like insurance. How are we in this situation here? And it's funny because like a lot of us in this room know how, because a lot of this information is available via public records request. So the fact that so many of us know how this came about and when it started happening and who's involved with kind of the DJing of things, it's concerning. Again, not to break any rules of public comment. I mean, if you're in a position of power and you have the means available of, say, the internet, like it's in everyone's best interest to stop pretending that these problems aren't happening. Like the students on your board are well aware of what is happening in this district. And I truly hope that policy passes because we need more honesty and influence like that, not more spinning to justify degrees or whatever's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Becky Roberts.
Good evening, President Reinhardt, Board of Directors, Dr. Robbins, and community members. My name is Becky Roberts, and I am the president of the Marysville Education Association. Once again, I want to start my statement off this evening by reminding the school board that our students are our main priority in the work we do every day. It is our paramount duty to make ample provision for the education of all children residing within our district's borders. The Marysville community agrees that every student deserves a public education that is safe and respectful. We are also dedicated to making sure that the Marysville School District is the best it can be. We will continue our efforts to collaborate with the district because that is what is best for MSD and our students. The MEA membership, however, continues to express their frustration and serious concern over the district's continuous missteps and their lack of transparency. For example, in the risk pools bylaws, there are no appeals. The pool's executive board has the final say unless the district plans on suing them. Although we appreciate coming to an agreement on our contract, in our other efforts to be collaborative and work with the district, we continue to be presented with incomplete information and are an afterthought when decisions are made. As a reminder, MEA's membership voted no confidence in the superintendent and executive leadership at over 90% last November. Unfortunately, there has been no real change that would lead us to reconsider our vote. Marysville students and the community deserve leadership who addresses problems, ensures safety for all students, engages with staff and community members, uses collaborative decision-making practices, and who is a good steward of the district's programs and finances. That is not what is happening in Marysville. We continue to tell the board what is happening with the leadership in this district, but it seems to fall on deaf ears. As the board voted to extend the superintendent's contract amid much concern from both staff and the community. The school board is complicit in the mismanagement of this district. This lack of competency and accountability must stop. Marysville students, families, and educators are joining together to demand real change in our school district. When we stand together, we have the power to make our schools places where every student, staff, and community member feels safe and welcome. MEA is united for our students because Marysville deserves better. Thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Christine Cobb? Okay, Christine, you have 6 minutes.
Good evening. I am Christine Cobb. I have been a teacher in Marysville School District for the past 11 years and a union representative. I am deeply concerned about the direction of our district. More importantly, I am profoundly saddened and disheartened by the continuous stream of troubling news. The latest blow, the loss of our insurance, is yet another devastating setback among many that have plagued MSD. As educators, our mission is to model transparency, honesty, and leadership for our students. Regrettably, these values are sorely lacking within our district's administration. The characterization of the loss of insurance as merely a business decision is misleading. In reality, this was a direct consequence of the district's failure to uphold its agreement to pay its share of a claim, prompting the Washington Schools Risk Management Pool to drop us after meetings and correspondence yielded no resolution. Why have we not appealed this decision already? The decision to drop us was made over 2 months ago. Oh, maybe that's because we can't. As Ms. Roberts said, there is no ability to appeal the decision. The Washington Schools Risk Management Pool is in fact one of the largest insurance pools in the state, not as what was previously stated. It covers 93 districts compared to 30 in the ESD 112 risk management pool. This is approximately 1/3 of the 295 districts in Washington state. Additionally, in 2023, our employment practices liability claims were 900% higher than the average district, a sharp increase from the previous year's 300% above average. As noted in their letter dated March 8th, 2024, MSD has experienced an extraordinary rise in EPL claims over the past 2 years. What has changed in the last 2 years? For those unfamiliar, EPL claims involve legal actions by employees against their employer related to employment issues. EPL insurance covers these claims and associated defense costs. What has driven this surge in EPL claims? I believe it stems from a pervasive disregard for staff. Our needs and input are consistently ignored, and when we raise voices of concern, we face retaliation. Speaking out at school board meetings, for me, resulted in being investigated and baseless accusations of misconduct. Did I ever receive an apology? Did the other 6 teachers that were investigated receive an apology or any sort of an explanation? No. So we were eventually exonerated. We did undergo a lot of undue stress and mistreatment. My heart aches for our district, and I worry about the impact on our students, family, and community. Just tonight, a parent whose children I have taught expressed her decision to me to transfer her kids to Snohomish due to her concerns about our district's trajectory. I was sitting right here when she just said it tonight, and it breaks my heart. I have taught 3 of her 4 children, and the youngest hasn't reached my grade yet. Board members, when will you truly listen to and take decisive action based on the voices of your community, parents, students, and staff to address these issues and restore our district? You listen, I guess, but you don't seem to hear us. The school district's future and our students depend on you starting to hear us and take action. Thank you.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you, Emily. All right, that concludes the hearing of business of visitors. We do have one written comment in from Ms. Amy Hooper. We'll make sure that gets into the minutes. All right, moving on to the approval of minutes, I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the work study and regular session minutes of May 6, 2024 as presented.
Second.
We have a motion, a second on the approval of minutes. Any discussion or conversation? All right, all in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, next on the agenda, we have our consent agenda section. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any conversation? Wanna go
Usually,
over gifts of the district?
sure. So usually read those. So Kellogg Marsh Elementary for fifth grade camp, $2,062 from Carmen Mueller. MGHS ASB Girls Golf, to participate to encourage participation and involvement within the girls golf team, $200 Rudy Grambois. Kellogg Marsh Elementary playground equipment, $135.91 from Carmen Mueller. And as always, we greatly appreciate the generous donations from folks in our community.
Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much. We do have one request for travel. Looks like we've got a football camp going on at Central Washington University. And total cost is $34,396. And that was all covered by the boosters and a little bit from the ASB fund. So hope you guys have fun. Go out and have fun with getting better at football. That's what we want you. We want you to get back in there again. All right, next on the agenda. Oh, actually, I didn't vote. You didn't vote for that one. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next on the agenda, we get into board action. So first we have the interlocal agreement in Northwest ESD 189 threat assessment services presented by Greg Dennis, Director of Safety, Security and Facilities.
Good evening, school board members and Dr. Robin. I bring before you tonight a board action item for a interlocal agreement with Northwest ESD 189 for the threat assessment program. Back in about 2019, legislature said all ESDs will have a school safety center and they'll maintain the threat assessment program for all school districts to use. What that looks like is they provide their level 1 training. There's 2 different types of threat assessments. They provide our level 1 training to our staff that needs it. So any new administrators, counselors, et cetera, get trained on that. And then they also come in and facilitate the level 2 threat assessments. So if you're unable to resolve an issue at a level 1 threat assessment, it gets pushed to the ESD. They bring in themselves along with community partners. So that's all part of this program. Our cost to this is based on FTE. And so this is an annual renewal for this program.
Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the 1-year interlocal agreement with Northwest Educational Service District 189 to continue support in the area of threat assessment services. I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions for Dennis?
I don't have any questions.
Any questions on our threat assessment? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, next on the list, we've got Northwest ESD 24-25 open doors contract.
Hello, Dr. Robin, members of the
Morning,
board.
Bonnie Walker, Secondary Education. And the first contract that I have for you is a contract for our Open Doors program that we run through ESD 189. That is actually housed here in Marysville. We house that for Snohomish County. And this is an ongoing renewal of the same contract we did last year. You hear lots about this program because we house it. You hear about their school improvement planning, spending of funds. So you kind of are pretty closely related with this program here on our site, but we serve lots of districts.
Right, do we have a motion?
I move to approve the 2024-2025 contract between NWESD and the Marysville School District as presented.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second on the table. Any discussion?
I don't have anything.
And you're right, we're getting used to renewing this one.
We hear about
All in
them.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Hey, Bonnie, you're back. Interlocal agreement 24-25 Snohomish County Detention Center.
Yes, this one you don't hear about as much, but again, it's an agreement that we have with the Snohomish County Detention Center, and it is it's what happens when we have youth that are incarcerated, and it's the way that they get their educational services. So this is a cost neutral to us, but what we do is we shift over our FTE so that they can provide services there while they're in the detention center, hopefully staying up with their studies, and then when they have gotten back in or out, or however we want to say that, then they come back to us ready to continue learning. So again, we annually update this contract so that it is available in case we have students that are in need of those types of supports.
Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the interlocal cooperative agreement with the Snohomish County Detention Center Education Program.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second on the table. Any questions or discussion?
I'm glad that this exists. I don't want to lose those kids.
Yeah, agreed.
Mhm.
Same. What does it look like exactly? I mean, that's pretty high level. So when you say we're sending somebody to the detention centers, are we sending a teacher or a counselor?
Usually on the student realm, we don't usually send kids to the detention center. They have
The teachers or the supports?
Yes, so we usually get, I know, we don't really send them directly ourselves, but we usually will get a letter from the county, and they will say that they have a student there that has been incarcerated and will be spending time there. And then we look through, we go and move over that funding, if you will, so that they can then provide services. There is some coordination with the counselor to kind of give information to them, but they pretty much run it over there on their own.
Okay, so the staff and everything's supports are in place. We just transfer the funding over.
Correct. There's a little bit of communication as we set it up, but I don't think we've had any of them this year, so I haven't even actually seen it in Marysville, but lots of districts use it, so I've used it in other districts.
That's good to hear. Any further?
This is good because prisons are supposed to be rehabilitative, and in America that a lot of times is not the case. So this is a good thing to try and make it more rehabilitative.
We try to do it for the youth, right?
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Okay, item number 4. Hey, you're already up there. Welcome. Dr. Michelle Roper, Executive Director, Special Education. You're going to be speaking on Northwest ESD Interlocal Agreements 2024-2025, Regional Learning Center, and the Snohomish Discovery Programs.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, Board of Directors and Superintendent Robbins. Marysville School District funds seats in Snohomish Discovery Program and Northwest Regional Learning Center for students whose IEP teams have decided that there's a need for this placement. Decisions for students to attend for specially designed instruction in this location are solely based on individual student needs. We ask that you continue to approve these MOUs so that students' needs can be met at this location.
Motion?
I move to approve the interlocal cooperative agreement between Northwest Educational Service District 189 and Marysville School District for Discovery and NRLC.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions, any conversation? also another one we've been through with you. Student reps? No?
These interlocal ones are easy.
Yeah, aren't they? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, that concludes the board action section of the agenda. So we have some follow-up items, so work study dates, board meeting dates, upcoming events. So June 3rd, we have a regular session meeting. June 5th is going to be our Heritage High School graduation. That'll be at 5 p.m. at the Tulalip Gathering Hall. Then Angel of the Winds will be the location for the following graduation. So at 1 p.m. on June 7th, we'll be doing Legacy. At 4 p.m. on June 7th is the Marysville Pilchuck. And then at 7:30 on June 7th will be Getchell High School. And with that, we'll move into final comments. Dr. Robbins?
No
you're up.
further comments, sir.
All right, Dr. Hoiby?
Well, I guess I'll talk about the things that have been going on that I've been involved with. Connor or Dr. Krebs and I went to Pinewood and met with teachers. Just to let them have a voice to us, as kind of a safe place to talk, and it went really well. And we've been kind of following up with some of those things. And I would encourage any other schools or teachers that would like us to visit, reach out to one of us and we can do like a 2x2 type thing. I think it's important to hear from the teachers too, because they don't always feel like they can come and talk here. We had kind of a historical meeting with the city last week with the property exchange. And I was really proud to be involved with that because it's showing good stewardship of taxpayer money to just make good use of facilities that we have. And the city's really helping us out in that. And then I want to finally thank you, James, for your input on the student policy. I hope that we can make some changes and get some improvement in that and build on that. So good luck to you in your future and thank you. That's all I have.
Dr. Michael?
So I'll keep it short tonight. I wanted to thank the Seroptimist as always for highlighting the things that are working and those kids that are working really hard. We do have some wonderful students here. James and Cheyenne, before the school year's over, I want to just thank you both for your involvement and participation. I can only imagine there might be other ways you want to spend your Monday night, so I appreciate that you spend them with us.
No, this is great.
And then just on that FCC audit finding, just so folks are aware, there's been an ongoing effort with WASDA, the School Directors Association, to work with the FCC to have them communicate to our auditors to get it fixed. It seems like it's a kind of uniquely Washington problem, but obviously we want it fixed. So that is something that's ongoing. And then just, with respect to some of the things that have been happening and around budget, I know that there's a balance here between, letting staff know who are impacted and things like that. But I just want to really encourage community conversations about our path forward. There's obviously some things that we needed to get done with OSPI and just other things like that. But as we look in the news, and I've been, reading a lot of news lately, there was a story on NPR today. Well, I guess it was KUOW, but about Seattle public schools and the challenges that they're having. There's been lots of articles about Yelm, about Moses Lake, about, other places. So we're certainly not alone in our struggles. We are, I think, maybe in a better position than we were last year, but there's clearly still work to do. And I think we need to do it with the community and make sure that folks aren't, we just don't want to surprise anybody. We still have things to get done. So I will leave it at that.
Eliza Davis Seedstock. I too want to thank James. You did a good job. I've watched Jimmy grow up. His mom taught all of my nieces and nephews and my son. So it's a pleasure. I also want to kind of echo that we do need to do this work together with the community. I appreciate Arden's words, what she said about making sure that we're doing things in an inclusive way. And Becky, around transparency, we absolutely have an obligation to be collaborative, inclusive, and transparent. And so doing this work is not easy. It is not an easy job to do. But I do this work from a place of responsibility and from my heart for students. So that's, I want to just make that a point to say. But also one other thing I feel like a need of highlighting is that it was mentioned that the Heritage High School graduation will be at the Tuliп Tribes Gathering Hall. That's a historic thing, and I think is a good example of some good work and how far Marysville School District has come, because that's never been done before. And I just think that it's kind of a historical moment to take note of and recognize. So that's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Director Davis. James?
Yeah, I'd like to echo what Eliza was talking about transparency and working with the community, working with students. Something I've talked about pretty much since I've started being a board rep. So yeah, we just need more of that because I mean, I think it's improved in some aspects. But yeah. Also, last meeting I lied. Next board meeting is my last one, not this one. So still have one more. So that's good. I'm glad I got that presentation done, but we still need to actually pass it. So I need to work with people to figure out how we're gonna get that done. But I'm glad I got that part out of the way. So that was good. I'm glad people seem to like my policy and procedure proposal. Been working on that for a long time. I'd like to give thanks to Director Davis and Director Krebs. Both of them were extremely helpful in figuring this whole situation out and providing feedback for me. So yeah, I think that's all I'll say for this one, and I'll have like a little speech at the next meeting or something. I don't know.
I don't have much to say, not much going on. I'm really happy for all the seniors that are graduating. I know a couple. So also really good job, Jimmy. Like I said earlier, he's been working on this for a while, and it's just so good to see his hard work paying off. And thank you to everyone that came here tonight and spending your Monday evenings doing this.
Thank you, Cheyenne. James? Yeah, so to piggyback a little bit, we've got a whole mess of eighth graders moving up to high school, and there's been some pretty cool open houses. I saw some of our board reps there. They're doing a great job. And my son's one of them, so it's a big adventure. I think the high schools did a great job in kind of opening their arms and welcoming the kids for the open houses. I was really impressed with the one that I visited, which was Getchell. James, happy to see you one more time. So don't say goodbye just yet. But I do look forward to shaking your hand up on stage there at Angela Wynn's Arena. Again, historic. The property exchange is one of those few things that happen where I know we say win-win, but really it's win-win-win because the school district benefits, the city benefits, but the community members and taxpayers benefit also because they don't have to pay for new facilities. I think Mayor Naring said something that they were to build a new public works facility. It'd be around the, I don't know, $65-75 million. The fact that they can repurpose this to take on that use is great. And we definitely could use some as a district, use a upgrade as well. Director Davis, Director Hoiby, and myself last week went to the tribal and school boards convening, and learned quite a bit. It was a very valuable experience. There's a couple really good takeaways. I think that one of the things I learned was that not just us as a district, but every district needs to really spend a lot of time understanding identification of our tribal students and making sure that we identify as many tribal American Indian, Alaska Native students as possible. And there's some tools out there that that are new and that can kind of break through some of the issues that are currently out there with just checking a box, saying who you are when you're registering for a school or a census. Also, there's a really good program called the UW Native Education Certificate Program that's focused towards administrators. It's looks like we've already had a cohort go through, and hopefully that we can get another cohort focusing on administrators to go through that as well and get their certificates. And then lastly, we do have a student, Brody Maddock, who is down in Lacey right now. He's the only student in our district who made it to state for golf, and he's by himself with his coach. And
Pablo's at,
is that?
Lincoln Pablo is at state too for golf for Heritage.
Oh, perfect. Lincoln as well. Congratulations. So far, from what I hear, things are going great, but tomorrow's the day. So wish him luck. And with that, we will be moving into an executive session, which I believe as per the agenda will begin at 8 p.m. And
Can we amend that?
yeah, exactly. Let's maybe we can amend that. I'd entertain a motion to have that begin at
7:30.
7:30.
People a minute to.
I'm sorry. I motion to amend the executive session time to 7:30 to 8:30.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any conversation around that?
It's been a long day.
We just need a half an hour, right?
No, it's
1 hour.
going for an hour.
1 hour.
7:30 to 8.
I said 8:30.
You did say 8:30. It has been a long day.
Okay.
Have fun with that.
Hi.
Hi.
Motion passes. So I'm going to call this meeting regular session. We will reconvene in an executive session in about 11 minutes. And if anybody's around after that, I'll close out the executive session in the boardroom.
Recording That's a long time away.
Yeah, I'll hang out here for.
Develop a stutter.
I'm looking at it. I need to add that.
What?
Say your time.
Oh,
Recording
17.
in progress.
Also the gavel.
Recording stopped.